Before we start today's episode, I would like to take a moment to tell you about a great deal being offered by my friend and master guitar instructor, Joe Elliott. Joe taught at the GIT in Hollywood for 23 years, where he was the VP of Education, and has recently been working with six-time Grammy winner David Sanborn. Over the past few years, Joe developed an amazing guitar program called Fretboard Biology. If you have been listening to the Guitar Speak podcast, I'm sure you've heard me mention Fretboard Biology before. At the moment, Joe is running a special deal where you can get 3 months of comprehensive guitar training for only $29. So head over to Fretboard Biology using the link in the show notes to get started. Whether you are an intermediate or advanced player, it really is worth checking out. Here's a few words from Joe about the course.
If you're tired of wading through hundreds of random guitar videos and just want to become a better player, Fretboard Biology is your answer. Fretboard Biology is a self-paced, college-level program that'll give you the right instruction, in the right amounts, and in the right order. You'll learn the same information I taught to thousands of other guitar players over 30 years of teaching in top music colleges. If you want to make real progress with your guitar playing, then sign up for a free 7-day trial at fretboardbiology.com.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Guitar Speak podcast. This is Matt Wakeling, and this is the show that I produce in Sydney, Australia, where I interview all sorts of great guitar people, do some gear reviews, and also have my great friends Rob.
Hello.
And Gabor.
Hello.
Join me. That was a bad sentence, but thank you for helloing, fellas. Rob and Gabor join me for the iconic Round Table series. We've been doing this stuff for a couple of years. We started talking about iconic albums, our favourite great guitar albums, and now we've kind of veered off into some specific kind of theme shows, which has been so much fun. Rob, you're bringing the theme for this episode. Do you want to talk us through it?
Yeah, I didn't really have a synopsis for this one other than to say that I thought it'd be a good discussion to talk about iconic gear influences. So, you know, the movers, the shakers, the people that are influencing what becomes popular, what's influencing YouTube channels, who's talking about what, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, like who are the major gear influencers? And I'm talking about players specifically, not so much just YouTube. Sorry, Gabor, maybe next time.
Oh. Well, I'm far away from being an influencer.
I thought we've covered the Josh Scott thing, but
Josh Scott thing,
you know, so I just thought more of a positive light of these people and what they've maybe brought to the table. So I chose John Mayer. Now, the reason I chose John Mayer is because I don't think anyone since maybe Stevie Ray Vaughan has been so thoroughly dissected and discussed about every minute change he makes, about he's taken 3 pedal boards on the road here, like he's using a clon, he's all of this sort of stuff, to the point where the guys are bringing, you know, clones to gigs for him to sign, and he's putting his settings with a marker. Like, I think it's awesome. It gives us all something to talk about, and you know, I'm sure we've all fallen foul of it at some point.
The whole YouTube channel's devoted to just his gear.
Yes, so
who get a lot more views than I do.
So Justin Jeske is the one.
He's one of them, yeah.
That
he's the one
comes to mind. He's the guy who's just he does John
the 2 Johns.
John Frusciante as well, yeah. But man, he is so passionate about, like, he's fun to watch. He loves to talk about it, and he loves to just get the most potato camera photo you could imagine and zoom in. It's kind of like watching CSI pedalboard.
Oh, yeah.
CSI John Mayer.
He needs to befriend some people who can do the magic with the depixelizing stuff. Yeah.
Like on TV when they go, can you enhance that? Sure.
Of course I
can. Bang. 8K. Mind you, it was recorded like with an old Nokia phone. And I said Nokia because we're talking about American TV shows, but I know it's Nokia.
You gotcha.
But yeah, so But I think it's really like, how did we get here? How do we get to this point in time where something is just so popular in such a niche thing, but so many people are like fevered over it? I think it's great. It's great for pedal builders, and it's great for all of the channels out there to give that there's an audience for these types of discussions. But yeah, I mentioned Stevie Ray Vaughan is maybe the last one, and Hendrix, has had books put out. But Hendrix, like, there's 2 or 3 pedals to talk about. With Mayer, like, I just went through a little bit of it, and the pedals that exploded because he used them, whether that's exploded due to sales or secondhand prices. But you're talking about
the Klon mainly, isn't it? That's a.
But not even that.
That's mostly his doing, the Klon, isn't it?
Yeah. But see, I sort of heard about the Klon from Jeff Beck and Joe Perry and Keith Urban before I really heard John Mayer using them. So, because it just kind of went back to those few early guys that got, the really early ones. Because Mayer's got the silver one. The gold ones are the first ones, right?
Yeah, I think so.
So
the golden
but
horses.
amps
ones.
From Dumbles to Two Rocks, Fender Bandmasters, Soldano SLO 100s, guitars, Strats, PRSs, Martins, the Duesenberg Double Cat, pedals, Tube Screamers, and it's like TS10s.
Yeah.
Klon,
TS10.
Keeley Katana. The Marshall Blues Breaker exploded because of him.
Yeah.
The Way Huge Aquapus, EHX Qtron, the Providence Chrono Delay, the Roger Lynn Adrenaline 3 beat sequenced filter effects processor. There always seems to be an EQ pedal on there. There's the Korg G4, which was the Leslie simulator. And then recently, when the 29 pedal O-amp dropped, and then it dropped on his board, all of a sudden they were sold out everywhere. You couldn't get them. You can get them again now, but just for a basic, well, maybe not basic, but a buffer line driver, which is not a pedal that everybody needs.
A very expensive buffer line driver on top
exactly.
of it all.
But yeah, I mentioned the YouTube channels, Justin Jeske, Vertex, Premier Guitar, and Andertons have all done multiple videos on John Mayer. And I just thought, when we were thinking up ideas for an episode, I had just watched something on John Mayer and I went, man, has there been in recent times a bigger gear influencer? Yeah.
I think in recent time, definitely not. I mean, he's the man at the moment, isn't he? Well, in saying that, since John Frusciante went back with the Chili Peppers, there are lots of people out there as well who try to replicate his board in every possible way. And the thing with him as well, with Frusciante, is that the pedal order is different to the order, the actual order is different to the way it is on the board because he lays it out on the board for him. Anyway, and there's all these people trying to work out which pedal comes before which pedal and how it all works. And But I mean, John Mayer, of course. I mean, it's funny. He's sort of become almost a poster boy. And I think there are a whole bunch of pedal builders that live because of him. Just about.
Absolutely. There's some meme builders too.
A lot of meme builders, a lot of YouTube channels. There's tons of stuff. I mean,
so true.
Right. So that's John Mayer. Do you guys have anything to add, or do you want to get into yours?
I think this is a super interesting topic because, as you said from the outset, Rob, you're talking about the players, not the social media or content creator influencers, which when we hear that term influencer, for me, that's who I usually think about. But this is back to the OG idea of celebrity endorsement that's been across every product since day dot.
Yeah.
So for us, it's guitar stuff. But yeah, the forensic investigation into John Mayer's stuff is full on. And the market response. I owned a TS10 relatively recently. my background is the second pedal I ever owned. The first one was a Boss DS1. We've talked about that.
Yeah.
The second pedal I ever owned was the DFL10. So that was the digital flanger in the 10 series from Ibanez, now known as the Tom Morello flanger.
Okay.
I don't have it anymore. I traded it in for an analog delay or something. I don't know. We've all done those stupid things. So I've really got a soft spot for the 10 series. I reckon if Ibanez reissued them with sturdier jacks and longer lasting switches, like surely people are going to go bananas. Anyway, a couple of years ago, I found a TS10 at Muso Swap Shop in Melbourne, which is great.
I'm
Still great
always on their website.
I love that, and I've posted stuff from Sydney to Melbourne because I know it's one of the better consignment stores.
Yeah.
Anyway, picked this one up for a couple $100. It was the Taiwanese one, not the Japanese one, but it did have the JRC blah 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 chip. Gabor, you know the number.
Is it 4558? Is that the one?
Maybe, I don't know. Had the right chip, inverted commas, the right chip. I got the pedal. Guess what? Sounded like a tube screamer.
Yeah,
shock horror.
No surprise. Now I knew this, but for $200, and I thought I'm getting a 10. It's cool.
It's because you're meant to
Eventually
run
I
a
sold
clon
it.
into it, mate. That's how you get the sound. Yeah.
Didn't
But
you run it into your Dumble?
before or after the clon? Like
Didn't
which
you run
video
your
do I
clon into
follow?
it into your Dumble? That's right.
Yeah, and then into the wet Dumble, not the dry Dumble.
I ran into the dry Dumble.
It's a wet, dry rig.
See,
with
that's
two
where your
rocks.
mistake is.
Yeah.
That's for the wet, dry, wet. When you have the two wet and the one dry Dumble, you got to run it into the two wet Dumbles.
I'm looking at my 3 Dumbles now, just feeling like an idiot.
I could only afford a Dumble.
But, it was a cool-
I had a
cool
dad
pedal.
joke. I don't know if I should say it, but all I can afford is a
You
Dumbledore.
should. I think you should.
Yeah.
That's good.
All I can afford
like
is
that.
a Dumbledore.
Love it. So I didn't buy the TS10 because I thought it would make me sound like Stevie Ray Vaughan or John Mayer. But it's just a tube screamer. But the way he uses his stuff sounds awesome. People love his tone, so people are gonna try and replicate it with some of the gear. But what you guys are I mean, you're making a joke out of it in a way that all the Dumbles, but everything kind of ties in, doesn't it? So
Yeah.
it's like when a kid sees Zach Wilde, he's got a Boss Super Overdrive, I'll get one of those.
So
I
I'll
don't
sound
sound like Zach
exactly
Wilde.
like him.
Well, because they're not running it into a dimed Marshall
with AMG
and
pickups.
with EMG. Yeah, so everything is everything, but
and
the Mayer influence
6 4x12
is-
cabinets.
That's right.
Well, so that's a good segue. Who did you pick out, Matt, as your iconic influencer?
Speaking of
All
6
right,
4x12
so
cabinets.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was watching
And-
Monsters of Rock, the new YouTube video that dropped in the last couple of days.
yeah.
Yeah. So
Fantastic.
take it away, Matthew.
All right. So thank you, Rob. I chose Eddie Van Halen, someone who you will know well, Rob, I know, from your fandomness. He influenced so much gear across the board.
Still does,
and I'm not going to attempt. Still does. And the stuff Wolfgang's doing with EVH gear, I think, is really, really cool. So I'm not going to attempt a historical overview because it's been covered so heavily all over the place. But I just want to talk about super strats and Van Halen's massive impact on that whole scene in a few ways. So Van Halen 1 comes out in 78, and we know in the 70s there's this perfect storm of customizing guitars. So we've got companies like Seymour Duncan, DiMarzio are really finding their feet. Companies like Schecter and Boogie Bodies, they're making guitar parts and people are getting into it. People are putting brass on everything, brass bridges, brass nuts.
Valley Arts.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Valley Arts thing's kicking in. So by the time Van Halen 1 comes out in 78, Eddie he's jumped on something that's already happening, There's people like Wayne Charvel, which Eddie knew. There's Grover Jackson. They're all on the west coast of America. They're making careers. They're making a job out of souping up customs guitars, you know. But Eddie Van Halen, he just amplifies this to infinity and beyond, and the whole world goes crazy. So, on that first record? He's playing the Frankenstein Strat, which at the time's black and white. It's still got the full pickguard, but he's just slapped a humbucker. Rob, you've built one of these things out of great love, so you know this story better than most. So he's got a PAF humbucker in the bridge. I'm pretty sure that was from his 335.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I just rewatched the Smithsonian interview last week where he talked about how many PAFs he destroyed, and how many like old Gibsons that would be worth a fortune now.
Yeah. Oh, totally. And he was known to do that. Hey, like, there's so many stories. Like, he chisels out a P90, a vintage Les Paul with P90s because he wants to whack a humbucker in there and the cavity's not big enough, and all this kind of stuff. He was just the mad professor in that regard. But I guess just the massive impact of Van Halen, and it's everything, isn't it? It's the playing, it's the songs, it's the image, it's the new techniques he's bringing. People's brains are exploding all over the place. So that guitar, we know it's a boogie body and a neck. He bought them combined for $130. Slaps in this humbucker from his 335. Puts the bridge on from his 61 Strat. So it's a standard trem at that stage. The second record, he's using the Bumblebee guitar, which apparently he's not into quite as much. And then he's back on the original Frankenstein. The red paint joins in then. He starts working with Floyd Rose. Eddie takes credit for the fine tuners on the Floyd Rose double locking trem. He says that was his idea. I mean, I know there's always different versions, but that was Eddie's version, that he suggested that to Floyd, and that came in. But basically, you know, within a couple of years, everyone's making a Super Strat. Everyone's got a Floyd or Kayla bridge starts coming in. A single pickup guitar is a big deal for probably the first time since the Fender Esquire, perhaps. Crazy paint jobs. Charvel and Jackson have now got their own companies. Charvel ends up selling to Jackson, but these guys become now household names off the back of this. Gibson have a Super Strat in the early 80s. Fender, by 84, they've got a Strat with a locking trem on it. The made in Japan, actually. Again, Japan Fender kind of pushing the way. So it's just fascinating. We're all into made in Japan stuff. I like the Fernandez stuff.
Yeah, same here.
And if you look, I look through the catalogs to try and date stuff, and by 81, 82, like it's full shred ahead for the next decade. So yeah, and as a Strat guy myself, the evolution is really fun. So yeah, we could talk modern Marshalls, we could talk flanges and phases and echoplexes, but I think just the way Eddie made the whole Super Strat thing explode, and at the same time, parts guitars, because people find out, he's just slapped this together. Yeah. So all these parts companies coming along, the Warmoths that we know today, and maybe even, I don't know if this is too long a bow. I'll be interested to see what you think, but even the Relic kind of thing, like that Frankenstein looked very beaten up and had some quirky hacks and dings in it. It wasn't a beautiful, shiny instrument, but it looked so cool. It predated Relics by a long time, but but the Warn vibe was awesome.
Was maybe the Rory Gallagher like signature Strat the first thing maybe I ever saw where they completely copied like a guitar, and the Stevie Ray #1 as well that Fender did. But they were sort of the first two. But I feel like Rory Gallagher predated the Stevie Ray like custom shop. But the normal signature model Stevie Ray wasn't Relic or anything. No. But then Fender came out with that series of the Closet Classic. There were 3 tiers, and then one of them was kind of lightly relicked, and one was, pristine, like it had been kept under a bed. And so I remember that from the 90s.
Yeah.
But that kind of felt like the first one where they kind of went, oh, we're going to copy a guitar exactly, bring it into Fender and make an exact copy of it for release, like mass release. I can't think of anything before that.
No.
And I'm not suggesting that Fender thought, okay, Eddie's got this worn out guitar, but I'm just thinking like mid 80s when everything is so shiny.
And people wanted it to look beaten up instead of looking shiny. Yeah, maybe, yeah.
Yeah, like Nuno with no
his guitar
paint
kind of stood out.
And,
which came later, but yeah.
Well, wasn't there a lot? I mean, in that time, there were a lot of people then, even in bigger bands, weren't a lot of people that destroyed their, early 60s Strats by putting fluoro pink paint on them themselves, cutting out, putting humbuckers in and all that sort of stuff. So I think and because of that, because it was a lot of it was homemade stuff, it probably looked relicked to begin with. Yeah. Because, so many, how many, I don't know, 62 Strats are there that were butchered in the mid 80s. I've got to put a Floyd Rose on that one. It's worthless anyway. It's an old 60s thing.
Yeah, how many guitars in the 80s and 90s got routed out for a Floyd Rose?
For Floyds or Kalas or and then spray painted with cheap fluorescent colours.
Schwinn bicycle paint. That was, I wonder how many cans of Schwinn bicycle paint they sold after Eddie mentioned it. How many Variacs sold after Eddie mentioned it? All those sorts of things,
Oh, probably a lot, yeah.
But the Super Strat thing and like all the hot pickups, but you come back to Van Halen and he was just wax potting Paffs, Gibson Paffs.
Vintage pickups,
And he wasn't like, it wasn't hot replacements from DiMarzio and Super Distortions and, other really hot DiMarzio and Seymour Duncan pickups. It was, low output Paff humbuckers.
Well, his tone's a whole nother can of worms as well, isn't it?
Yeah, and we've kind of covered a bit of that on some other episodes.
Definitely. So, there you go. Any other thoughts?
Well, I'm definitely like being influenced massively by Van Halen. There's a 5150 combo here. There's the white and black striped Fender that I did after he passed away. And, drum roll please, Thursday, I may be picking up a neon pink EVH 5150 with a kill switch. But more news on that next time.
Nice.
Oh,
neon pink.
Neon pink.
Wow. It's going to be loud.
This is my whammy bar, and it's going to be loud.
They're cool looking guitars. I like those 5150s.
Yeah, I was tossing up between a Wolfgang Special and that, but I think hot pink for the 80s show and a kill switch is the seals the deal.
The hockey stick thing.
Yeah.
That's the only the Wolfgangs, I don't like that weird can opener looking thing.
Yeah, no, it is a bit weird.
Yeah.
The hockey stick's awesome.
The hockey stick's
great. I had a friend I sat with at school, Jason Elkerton. I don't know if you're listening, Jason, but he's a guitar player as well. And on his big folder with all the notes in, he had a picture of Eddie with the, I think it might have been the 5150.
The Kramer
guitar, might have been, or it might have been a Frankenstein. I can't remember. I remember I used to just stare at this picture. He also had pictures of 80s Fernandez, which is probably why I like 80s Fernandez guitars. It all comes around.
With the sustainer pickup in the neck.
Sustainer.
Yeah.
There you go. All right. Eddie Van Halen Super Strats. So much fun.
Pretty iconic.
This episode is brought to you by Fretboard Biology, the comprehensive online guitar course put together by master guitar instructor Joe Elliott. I was a beta tester for the course and loved it. Players like Brett Garsett and Greg Koch have also endorsed the course. And right now, Joe is offering a great deal on the course. Check out the link in the show notes for Fretboard Biology.
How about you, Gabor? Who did you choose?
Well, I chose very un-me. To me, though, I think the OG gear influencer I think he was the absolute original gear influencer, and still to this day, I don't think the gear influencers that you both mentioned would be there without him, because he was the original, which is Jimi Hendrix. I mean, I mean, looking at guys like John Mayer, I mean, he kind of always wanted to sound like Stevie Ray. Stevie Ray always wanted to sound like Hendrix. So in the end, guys like Clapton, I mean, he even permed his hair to look like him. To me, I mean, you have the Dunlop does the whole, Jim Dunlop does the whole Hendrix range of pedals with his face on it, which, you know, that's a whole different sort of story. But to me, I think as an influencer generally of a certain tone, that sort of broken up, clean sound, I think pre him it was all either clean or sort of kind of pretty overdriven. I mean, there wasn't a huge amount of overdrive before him, but with Hendrix came that sort of on edge of breakup sound, screaming fuzz sound. I mean, we can look at specific pedals and stuff that he used, but I'm talking in general, as someone who influenced, I think, not just our generation, but every generation that has followed since. I think he's like the ultimate influencer. I mean, you guys' thoughts? Rob.
Yeah, well, he's like, you know, he's a painter. Like, he had all of these brushes that created these soundscapes, and every one of those soundscapes is still relevant today. You know, like, look at the boutique pedal market. There's 4,000 Univibes. There's, you know, the wah is still super relevant, and you can argue who, you know, whether it was Clapton or Hendrix or whoever's the wah guy, they're both equally as, you know, relevant, but Hendrix is
first.
Everyone plays Voodoo Child first, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And an Octavia, like Purple Haze, that's the quintessential when people go, I want an Octavia sound. What do you want it to sound like? Oh, I want it to sound like Purple Haze. And
I rest my case.
all of those, So from fuzzes to Univibes to all of that stuff, the backwards guitar that was recorded, people want reverse delays, and even
to Strats.
And the glissing of delays. Like, you can take all that back to Hendrix, where the delay had a harmonic, like an octave above harmonic content. Yeah. And a lot of the pedals, as you said, like, that's about as iconic as it gets. It's where it started. You know, it's the cave paintings of guitar, basically.
Pretty much. Matt, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, fuzz faces. People are trying to cop that tone.
Yeah,
aren't they? That's the big deal.
And I mean, the amount of different fuzz phases you can buy that all claim, oh, this is the original one. This is like totally like the original circuit, like the one that Hendrix had. And that's the one that Roger Mayer kind of modded for him, or did God knows what for him. And I know the specific thing that he did. I mean, no one else is... I mean, yes, John Mayer is probably sort of the nowadays version, and probably more people spend more time following him around and taking photos with, you know, bad camera phones and stuff like that. But I mean, I think there's no one else who people want, or people think of his sound as an ideal sound more than Hendrix. And I mean, John Mayer is part of that. I mean, the John Mayer sound is a derivative of the Hendrix sound, isn't it?
Yeah, it's part of actually what Philip Sayce calls the Hendrix family tree.
Okay.
So Mayer's somewhere on that for sure.
Great grandchild.
Maybe some sort of thing.
A little bit nerdier.
Well, it's there. He covered Axis Boulder's Love. You know, it's all there for everyone to hear.
It's a great cover too, by the way. That's really cool. Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, what's interesting too, with all the gazillion pedal builders and guitar builders and pickup winders, a lot of stuff is chasing new sort of sonic territory, but I still reckon the vast majority is trying to nail vintage stuff.
Yeah.
Well, like every pickup builder has a Woodstock 69, like,
Yeah.
you know, or a 65. You know, all of these things that are still really grounded in Hendrix territory.
Yeah.
Even though other people were using the same guitars at the same time, you know, we still see upside down headstocks. Hello, I have one. But, you know, on a right-handed guitar, there's still a Mexican-made Hendrix tribute. There's still, as Gabor mentioned, the MXR range. You know, there's the homebrew experience pedal, which is worth a fortune now because it's based on the original Octavias and Fox Tone Machines. All of those.
Digitech Jimi Hendrix pedal in the.
I knew we couldn't get through without mentioning
which
that
is
one.
going for crazy money now too. That's the scary thing. When I used to work at the music shop, the Jimi Hendrix one, and it came in a beautiful purple sort of velvety kind of case, and the red special one. Just no, and the Eric Clapton one that wasn't. It was slightly different. Crossroads. That's a horrible pedal, but I mean that's a different story. No one wanted to buy these. No one. Yeah. No one. You couldn't give them away. And now that, especially the Hendrix, a little less because I think there were more of them. But the Red Special, they made it for such a short time. They go for crazy money now. It's insane. But anyway, I think I mean, to me, he's like I said, he's the OG gear influencer, and I think. Probably more than anyone else, a lot of pedal companies, a lot of amp companies, a lot of pickup winders, a lot of guitar makers wouldn't exist if it wasn't for Hendrix and them striving to get something to sound like Hendrix.
Well, Roger Mayer's still out there making pedals, you know?
Roger Mayer's still out there. I mean, the amount of times we get, with the YouTube thing, we get pedals sent to us, you know, new releases or something like that. And it's usually something that's Hendrix related or, I mean, not always, but very often something Hendrix related, maybe Stevie Ray Vaughan related. But then that's, to me, that sort of falls in the same category because, I mean, that was sort of kind of very similar. I mean, he was very, I want to sound like Hendrix, which is fine. And he took it into his own way. But a lot of these sounds, there's always a univibe mixed with I don't know, Sun amp, you know, or
well, Keeley make the Monterey, and we still haven't mentioned the P word, plexi. Like you know, like how many plexi in a box pedals that are painted purple?
Purple,
It's like,
that's it.
What are you trying to be?
Or black and gold.
Black and gold.
Yeah. So that's any other thoughts on either of you?
Oh, it's massive, and it's all back to the tone and the playing, and that kind of thing. I guess for all these guys, they're all doing really interesting things as musicians, obviously, which is drawing our attention, and it's why so many people are buying the gear or following the gear or obsessed with the gear. Now that's another can of worms, of course, which we're not talking about.
That's a huge. But I mean, also just trying to think now. Think of interviews with really well-known guitar players who play Strats, and they will always say they wanted a Strat. You know, think of guys like David Gilmour. You know, and
it's because of
he plays Strat because of Hendrix. Clapton plays Strats because of Hendrix. You know, John Frusciante plays Strats because of Hendrix.
Yes.
So I think the Strats, if Hendrix would have played that Flying V, I think the Flying V would be, you know, there's a few photos with him with that Flying V. The Flying V would, if that would have become his iconic guitar, that would be now the guitar that John Mayer would have gone to PRS to make a super new and incredible Flying V. That's nothing like the other Flying V.
Well, you could argue Jeff Beck too, because Jeff Beck was a Les Paul player, you know, for a long time.
Sorry?
Jeff Beck too, you could argue, because he was a, you know, Les Paul player for a long time.
Long time, yeah. Yeah,
But
so it's the OG. That's my thoughts.
I thought you were going to say Les Paul, but when you said OG...
well, Les Paul,
he's the OG looper.
Too, But he's the Ed Sheeran. He was the Ed Sheeran of his day. But
The Ed Sheeran of his day. Oh, can we cut that bit out? It's going to mess up the algorithm.
Keep it.
We're going to have the wrong people tuning into this episode.
I'm liking it.
but I mean, the thing is with him, the stuff he used was, but I guess the looping thing and the tape, the slapback thing, that was sort of, I guess, him to a certain degree. That a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, Hendrix. I mean, yeah. Anyway, that's just my fault.
I got a coffee table book that's called Hendrix Gear or something, and it's a great book, like the go-to. And
the coily cable. I mean,
cool.
People still use coily cables.
We're going to talk about
Dude.
curly
I mean, the amount
cables.
of times I watched Gearman Dude with his coily cables.
We're going to talk about curly cables in another episode.
Oh, okay. Ooh, okay.
Good. Can't wait.
Can't get away from them.
So that's it. That's my iconic gear influencer.
And I think that's a wrap on that one.
It's cool. Rob, nice take on the influencers. Get it back to the people actually making the music. Cool. And we're very honoured to have Gabor with us as a
massive
content creator.
Let me influence you people.
As well.
Our in-house gear
influence
influencer.
You. Be influenced by me.
So handy.
Influenced by going to my YouTube channel.
Ross Pedals. Wait, sorry, not Ross Pedals.
Oh man, the Ross thing now as
We
well.
had to get it in there somewhere.
That's another can of worms.
All right. Gabor, when you're not influencing the masses with your handcrafted YouTube channel, which actually, Gabor, it's a fantastic channel. What are you doing? How can we contact you?
You can go to the YouTube channel. Or actually, I'm just going to plug something different now for a change. If you go to Instagram and type in "tall guy with glasses," all one word, that's me. That's my Instagram thing. And you can check out when I play gigs. If you're ever in Southeast Queensland, or particularly Noosa, I'm getting a bit lazy with driving anywhere else but Noosa. But if you, exactly.
Why would you, man?
If you ever in Noosa on a weekend,
petrol's expensive.
If you ever in Noosa on a weekend, pretty much most weekends I'll be playing somewhere in Noosa Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, or at least maybe let's say 2 of those nights. So yeah, come and check me out. It's a Tall Guy with Glasses on Instagram, or it could be The Tall Guy with Glasses. It's either The Tall Guy with Glasses or Tall Guy with Glasses, one or the other. But that's me.
Okay.
And of course, the Super Fun Awesome Happy Time Pedal Show. That's the other one where I can be influenced by me on YouTube.
That's awesome. And Rob, how are you spreading your rock and roll influence amongst the people?
Well, yeah. Well, obviously, living in the 70s, living in the 80s, the odd solo gig. But we can make this an Instagram flavored episode, and you can catch me at Rob Rhodes Music. And then all the links are in the bio.
Yes,
Isn't that what the kids say? Links in bio.
Yeah. I always say profile, but
bio. Fantastic. All right, well, fellas, thank you so much. Rob, thanks for a great idea for a show. Thank you both for joining in on this time. My thanks also to Fretboard Biology. Please check out the links in the show notes. They're running a great special as we speak, September, October 2023. And very good times. Another iconic gear influencer, Michael Schenker.
Very much so.
You know what he said?
Keep rocking. Keep on rocking.
Keep on rocking indeed. Thank you, guys. And we'll catch everyone next time. Bye now.
Bye.
Bye-bye.